On here tonight are human relationships, not the kind that are developed by exchanging business cards or adding each other on LinkedIn, but the kind that are formed over time through deep, passionate, and spirited conversation. I thought I'd share something that we do in Snapchat that I learned in my high school, Crossroads, that they in turn borrowed from the LAHacks Foundation. It's the practice of counseling. It may sound hokey to some of you, but it's really important to us. It means that once a week, for about an hour, groups of 10 or so team members get together and they talk about how they feel. And just like there are 3 keys for success, there are 3 rules for counsel. The first is always to speak from the heart. The second is an obligation to listen. And the third is that everything that happens in counsel stays in counsel. We found that this particular combination is incredibly useful for learning not only how to express what we feel, but for understanding and appreciating the feelings of others. A friend told me that you know you love someone when they're the person you want to share your stories with. And I'd add that they're likely the person you most want to listen to. So without discounting the importance of speaking from the heart or listening thoughtfully, I want to talk about the notion that what happens in counsel stays in counsel. Ensuring that the feelings expressed during counsel aren't shared publicly creates a space for us to make ourselves vulnerable. It allows us to share our deepest, most unique thoughts and feelings that might be easily misunderstood in a different context. Put more simply, we respect the privacy of counsel. Unfortunately, privacy is too often articulated as secrecy, when, as Niesenbaum points out, privacy is actually focused on an understanding of context. Not what is said, but where it is said, and to whom. Privacy allows us to enjoy and learn from the intimacy that is created when we share different things with different people in different contexts. Kundera writes, "In private, we badmouth our friends, and we use coarse language. That we act different in private than in public is everyone's most conspicuous experience. It is the very ground of the life of the individual. Curiously, this obvious fact remains unconscious, unacknowledged, forever obscured by lyrical dreams of the transparent glass house. It is rarely understood to be the value one must defend above all others." In America, before the internet, the divisions between our public and private lives were usually tied to our physical location, our work, and our home. The context in which we were communicating with our friends and family was clear. At work, we were professionals, and at home, we were husbands, wives, sons, or daughters. There are few better at understanding the difference between public and private expression than celebrities, whose public personalities can generate significant interest in their private lives. It's only when one's privacy is threatened, when the context in which one shares is collapsed, that public and private become clearly distinct. While walking through an airport recently, I was struck by a Newsweek special issue that promised to reveal Marilyn Monroe's lost scrapbook. Indeed, a journalist had found a scrapbook that she had created for a photographer and a friend. The journalist writes about the scrapbook. It's Marilyn being natural, having messy hair, not worrying about what somebody might think of her or how they might look at her. She's not looking at the composition of the pictures. She's looking at what she's doing in the pictures. She likes having fun. The pages are colorful, with Marilyn's thoughts and feelings scrawled beside the imagery. Next to one photo of herself in a bathrobe, surrounded by production gear, she writes, "A girl has no privacy when she works." Marilyn felt that her scrapbook was a private place to share with her photographer friend. It wasn't part of her public persona. The internet encourages us to create scrapbooks of our feelings that are shared, potentially without context, for the enjoyment of our friends, our audience. Our feelings become expressed as information, They're used to categorize and profile our existence. On the internet, we organize information by its popularity in an attempt to determine its validity. If a website has been referenced by many other websites, then it is generally determined to be more valuable or accurate. Feelings expressed on social media are quantified, validated, and distributed in a similar fashion. Popular expression becomes the most valuable expression. Social media businesses represent the aggressive expansion of capitalism into our personal relationships. We are asked to perform for our friends, to create things that they like, to work on a personal brand. And brands teach us that authenticity is the result of consistency. We must honor our true self and represent the same self to all of our friends, or risk being discredited. But humanity cannot be true or false. We are full of contradictions, and we change. That is the joy of human life. We are not brands. That is simply not our nature. Technology has perpetuated the myth of the transparent glass house and created a culture that values popular opinion over critical thought. We have allowed ourselves to believe that more information equals more knowledge. And increasingly, we live in a time when, as Rosen describes, intimate personal information, originally disclosed to our friends and colleagues, may be exposed to and misinterpreted by a less understanding audience. Every time we express ourselves, we do so with the understanding that things we say might become permanently and publicly known. We are encouraged to express ourselves in ways that are accepted by the largest possible audience. We lose our individuality in favor of popular acceptance. My concern is that we have developed a generation of people who believe that successful leaders are those with followers. I believe that the best leaders are those that stand for something, who have a point of view, and that point of view must be developed, not alone, but in private, or risk becoming normalized in search of popular support. For encouragement, I've often relied on the words spoken by Roosevelt at the Sorbonne, who declares, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." We have built a society where all too frequently the men in the arena are fighting not for their lives, not for their family, nor for their point of view, but for the spectators and for the applause. And we, the spectators, sitting in the arena, happily entertained, drunk and well-fed, we are full, but are we happy? Kundera writes that when it becomes the custom and the rule to divulge another person's private life, we are entering a time when the highest stake is the survival or the disappearance of the individual. I believe that time is now. I will leave you with words from the final paragraph of a speech that was to be delivered by President Kennedy on the day he was assassinated. On that day, Kennedy would have spoken during a time of war. Tonight I ask you to listen as we face a battle to prevent the destruction of the individual. We in this country, in this generation, are by destiny, rather than by choice, the watchmen on the walls of world freedom. We ask, therefore, that we may be worthy of our power and responsibility, that we may exercise our strength with wisdom and restraint, and that we may achieve in our time and for all time the ancient vision of peace on earth, goodwill towards men. That must always be our goal, and the righteousness of our cause must always underlie our strength. For as was written long ago, except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. We are all here to erase the stigma that says hacking has to do primarily with exposing things that others do not wish to have exposed. I challenge all of you to create a space this weekend, during this very important time, which honors and respects the thoughts, feelings, and dreams of others. We have come here to find comfort and joy in sharing and creating. We must build thoughtfully for our future generations, that they may discover the joys of human relationship and individual expression as protected by privacy. Thank you.